Welcome to the July 29th Jail and Zones production user call. We have Philip, Jan, Jamie, and myself, Michael, so far. And FYI, the FreeBSD Fabricator is down. Reviews.freebsd.org. Jan was hoping to show a review, but nope, not down for a count. Jamie, what you got?
I've got a check-in almost ready once I get rid of a slight issue of a panic every time a jail is removed. Other than that, jail descriptors are in about the state that I want them to be.
That is great news. Could you remind our listeners what are some of the use cases for this nifty new ability?
The main use case that was being looked for, which is the work I was adding with KQ tracking ability on jails, was the idea of a master jail daemon that was aware of the state of jails as they changed and could do such things as note or even restart a removed jail, note it when new sub jails are created, but not new top level jails. That's something to discuss.
Um, we
And
have
Let him finish. Jan, hold that thought. He's
okay, and the older non-Knote stuff of being able to control a jail via the descriptor that can be passed to other processes.
You said control a jail through the descriptors?
Yes, you can use the jail set, jail remove, attach calls with a descriptor instead of a JID.
Oh, right. Okay. With cool. Welcome, Gibran. And any other examples to give?
Those are the main things that were being looked for. As far as use cases go, those were more given to me by the other people on this call more than come up with by
I,
me. So if anybody else wants to have a use case either that this works with or this doesn't work with because there's more that needs to be done, I'd like to hear that.
okay, so Jan, you interjected earlier. Let her rip.
so when it comes to having a jail supervision daemon
Mhm.
of a sort, right now you're totally right. You in user space don't get a way to properly hold a jail without just busy polling. But there is a workaround which was accidentally created, not properly engineered. We have the defctl jkmod port. That's an out-of-tree kernel module which generates defctl events for defd when jails change state or processes attached to a jail. And there's an in-base kernel module which makes it possible to consume defctl events via netlink without replacing defd, because defd is the only allowed consumer. You can't have multiple defds running, so defd is not available in a jail because the device exists just once per host and so on. But as long as you're fine with writing a little bit of netlink client code and loading the kernel modules, you can then subscribe to the jail multicast group and get all the jail events via netlink. That just happens to be possible. But netlink is best effort. So in theory, you can have a queue overrun, and netlink will just tell you that you lost messages. And then in the case of a jail management daemon, it would have to do one pass over all the jails, enumerate them, and update its state. So it's back in sync. This should be a fairly unlikely situation, but it must be handled so that you resynchronize. So yeah, it's possible right now, but what would not be possible is delegating the operation on jails to an unprivileged process so that you have with the way I would like to use jail descriptors, my idea is that you have a trusted policy process which creates the jail and so on, and then gives you the jail descriptor so that you can get events on the jail without necessarily having to be privileged anymore. The feature which is requires is that you can use capsicum mechanisms like cap writes and so on to restrict for example, ioctls. You're allowed to perform on that file descriptor. But if all of this goes piggybacks on the existing jail set system call and then just hides the file descriptor in the argument list, it's not visible to the normal capsicum mechanisms. So it would be an all or nothing thing, so that if you want to give someone a file descriptor to get events, they would also be able to do a jail set and modify the jail, which is probably not appropriate. Does
Have
your
we
code
achieved it?
already cover this use case, Jamie?
Go ahead and repeat that. I interjected.
As
Jan,
far
Ask
as
if-
the use case being able to delegate control without allowing some things.
So yeah, but you can get the jail descriptor, but the jail descriptor through capsicum mechanism is restricted so that you can only usually have a read-only descriptor to the jail.
I have not done that yet with capsicum. I do have on my list of things to do to add capsicum permissions for descriptors, much like the other permissions there. However, I do have it via file permissions. You can do a change mod, change own on a file. Read, write, execute is jail, get, set, attach. And so you can make it so people can, for example, attach it to a jail, but not change it.
So the other question I would have is this descriptor a new file descriptor type, or is it going to be a character device and pop up
It's a new
/f
descriptor type.
jail?
It's modeled after process descriptors, which are themselves a new descriptor type.
No. Okay. So you're not going to see them in /dev, other than /dev-fd.
No, it's not in the file system namespace.
and what is it modeled after?
Process descriptors.
Okay, thank you.
So another small feature that was asked for was the idea that when a jail descriptor is closed, the jail itself goes away. That is an optional feature via change mod setting the sticky bit, which I have repurposed for this. So if you have a jail descriptor with a sticky bit set and it closes, that does a jail remove. Other descriptors are just observational. If it closes, there's just no more jail descriptor, but the jail is still there.
So the way process descriptor handle this is if the reference count for the description goes to 0. Because you can dupe it, you can inherit it, you can pass it, and the process is only killed when anyone closes a file descriptor. That's the insanity, like POSIX file locking, where another thread closed the file descriptor to the same thing, and now you lost your lock. So it doesn't make sense to tie this to the file descriptor. It would have to go on the file description.
Well, yes, that's true. I play a little fastness with those words. The final close on the file description, yes. So on the jail descriptor object, once all of the descriptors on it are closed, then it removes the jail. So no, it doesn't do the POSIX lock problem.
So similar to how PD fork without the daemon nice flag.
Right. I've basically taken exactly what they do, except for I've made the default way of process descriptors be the optional way for jail descriptors.
And is there a way to get the jail ID for a jail description?
Yes,
A jail
because
descriptor?
you can pass the jail descriptor to jail get.
Okay. So if you have that descriptor and you want to, I don't know, configure hierarchical resource limits which meet the jail ID, you can do that.
Yes. And
Nice.
also, if all you want is the jail ID, you can also just do an fstat on the descriptor, and that's the inode number.
Neat. I'm kind of disgusted with using this the sticky bit for it, but like it has to go somewhere. It's not needed for anything.
Yeah, I figured the sticky bit because that makes the jail stick to the descriptor.
Wow. Clever.
Yeah, I'm okay. I would have inverted that. It means the jail sticks around if the bit is set, but yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Because
I
that's
guess.
the way our rc.d scripts do it. If an cloned interface is marked sticky, it survives the interface shutdown and so on.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, it just has to be documented.
Unless now's the time to rethink that, but
Uh,
exciting stuff.
you could also say, hey, the fate of the jail sticks to the fate of the descriptor.
Ah, I like that.
Yep.
Ah, I like
It can be argued either way because it's just stealing a bit.
Yeah, I like it.
This,
Semantics aside, I like it the way I have it for one reason is because it is not the default state. And I like the default state being the bit turned off.
mm-hmm.
cool.
um,
Continue.
there's a problem with the default because there's no way to atomically acquire the jail with that flag, right?
There
So if
is.
I okay, so you can set it with
Oh,
jails
oh
set
no, I
with
see.
create.
With the flag, no, there is not.
Yeah,
However,
that
Let him finish.
it
Let him finish.
that's not a problem because it's not part of the jail, it's part of the descriptor. And you get the descriptor back, and before you give it to anybody else, you can set the
um
flag.
here's my problem case. Let's say you have some CI/CD tool like what Dave is talking about. And for some reason, the process which creates the jail gets killed between creating the jail and setting the bit. Then the kernel won't garbage collect the jail.
Ah, that is true. You do have
Yeah,
that small window.
yeah, that's a race condition. So that's the reason why open and so on all take it in the system call which allocates the descriptor of the close exec flag. Or FreeBSD has an open and lock because otherwise you have this race condition where you could leak a jail. Yeah.
Odds of that happening, and is there a simple workaround?
It's not a question of odds. It's if this sequence of events happens, this is the obvious consequence. It's not in one in a
Okay.
million. It's if the process dies between creating the jail and setting this bit, the jail is not
Okay.
the jail's fate is not tied to the descriptor, and so it won't be automatically destroyed.
Can that be made atomic?
It
Right now,
can
it could.
One at a time.
it can with the rather annoying idea of having a separate jail descriptor option that says sticky descriptor instead of descriptor. That's ugly.
Ew.
So that's
Apple X is
where we
available. But
that's where
oh, it's a
we
different one.
balance the chance of it happening with the chance of ugliness, which apparently is 100% though.
I see.
So, what would be the problem with, instead of making it an additional one, making it a parameter you can give, like sticky equals 1?
Oh, that's basically what I meant. Yeah. Either way, it's either way,
Not,
you've got something extra in describing the stickiness of the jail that you want, of the
yeah,
descriptor that you want.
yeah. But
I'll let you two work that out, but broadly, are you both happy where
or
this
you
has
could make it.
landed?
Uh, don't we have plenty of bits in the jail set system called flags?
Yes, I could make it a flag in the system call.
It's probably the least invasive way, so it doesn't pollute the namespace of parameters. Because this is really a flag to the operation and not to the jail, right?
Yeah.
So it would kind of make sense, just like you have it in the flags of the opennet system call, to have it in the flags of the jail set system call. And we use only a handful of bits of the 32 we have. So the documented, we are just 4 documented bits, I think, out of 32. So
Yes. And now that you mentioned those flags, I might want to use another flag. Right now, the way things work with both jail get and jail set is the descriptor parameter is bidirectional. If it
yeah,
is greater than or equal to 0, then it assumes this is a descriptor I am passing in for you to identify the jail with that you're looking to get or set. If it is less than 0, it means I would like to get a descriptor back from this. That's non-intuitive and would
absolutely
require
not.
documentation. And maybe the better way to describe those is a flag in the jail get or set system calls that says
Mhm.
to do one or the other.
Yeah, that's a lot better, because I think there's no other place in all of FreeBSD system call interface where a negative file descriptor number is anything other than an error value.
Yeah, it is saying there is not a descriptor yet, but you're right, that is different from error. And it does mean that you have to preset your descriptor value with something even when you're getting a jail, which is I guess that's when you're doing it as far as identifying the jail, but when you're not, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, and the other question is, if the allocation of the description and or descriptor fails, does that fail the whole jail set get system call?
Yes.
Okay, so at least there's that. Because if the jail gets created and then you find out, yeah, there was a jail created, but your file descriptor limit is reached, so you're not getting the descriptor for it, that would be really a nasty corner case.
Yes, yeah, it does the allocation early for that reason.
Good, that avoids this whole mess.
Now, one thing that's missing in all this that I thought about when I was mentioning, yeah, you can keep track of all the jails that come and go. You can with the whole model of getting a descriptor for a jail, that means new top level jails that are created are not something that you are made aware of. You are made aware of child jails being created of something that you have a descriptor for. And then you can get a descriptor for those. But new top level jails that are not created under your purview, you are also not notified of. Now that could be seen as a feature. That's, you are watching your jails, not someone else's. but there are Imagine programs that want to know about that happening.
Here's an idea. We already reserved jail ID 0 for current jail or host. So what if you could get a descriptor for person ID 0?
Yeah.
And then get a descriptor which gets you only these events. Or maybe read permissions on your own so that you could, I don't know, read your environment through that or whatever, or metadata.
There is a broader thing that I have considered, which is doing a jail get on JID 0, which either gets the base system or if you're already jailed, gets your jail. It would need to be a restricted view. There are some things that you don't want to show people about their own jails, but there's really not very many.
Yeah,
I mean, we already tell people that they're jailed, so it's not, letting on a big secret. Oh yeah, you're in a jail. So yes, if I was able to do that, then yes, you could get a descriptor on your jail. It would necessarily be one that you can only read and not set.
Yeah. Otherwise, you've created a neat little backdoor.
Yes.
That's why
But yeah, that is something that might be useful for a broader thing, and it would solve this problem.
Potentially would also, except for backward compatibility, get us out of the mess that jail parameters are sysctls.
Yeah.
But of course, that would
break
that. Because if you could start from your maximum view, which is prison 0, right? With a descriptor, and then do everything, enumerate for children, enumerate for parameters.
Illuminating the parameters is not something that you do via descriptor.
With a jail get?
Well, jail get, you don't enumerate parameters, you pass parameters and say, I want these parameters.
Oh, right. So you would have to have a priori knowledge of all possible parameters.
Right, and that's where the syscontrols come in. The syscontrol method does a good job of describing parameters, which is why I chose it. The only real problem is the syscontrol namespace. I really should have made it something using the functions, but not part of the syscontrol root, which is something I could do, but it would be there would be some back compatibility problems. And one of those, anytime you improve things, people complain, but I know about the old one.
Yeah, it used to work, you broke it. I don't need your new feature. I don't have to maintain your code. But joking aside, yeah, the kind of messy part among others is that you're effectively abusing the sysctls as a schema.
Yes, this is true. And maybe I could at least make it a hidden part of the tree.
Or one at a time.
Go on.
Because it tells the user space, including I think the jail command, doesn't have the parameters hard-coded, but learns them through the sysctls. And it tells you the names and affinity if it's numeric or stringy. Or I don't know if it even tells you if it's Boolean or numeric, or if both are represented as integers. Yeah, okay, so it tells you if it's Boolean, integer, or string.
Yeah. Or in a few cases of things that aren't any, like IP6 address or something like that.
It's passed as a string.
It is not passed at the kernel interface as a string. No, it is actually passed as a struct in adder 6.
Yeah. Okay. And then inet n2p.
Yeah. In retrospect, I should have passed it as a string, but I didn't. I passed it the way it was passed to the original jail system call. IP4 the same way. I just chose IP6 just because.
I mean,
it's one of very few things that are passed that way.
Yep.
But yes, that's all in the syscontrols.
Yep. I wonder how many applications truly depend on that detail, or if everyone is just either hard coding it or using the jail command for the jail manager, but I don't know.
Most people probably either hard coding. If you use libjail, you
Yep.
pass strings to parameters in libjail, and it translates them as it sees fit, and it knows
Mhm.
about the special types like the IP addresses. So as long as you use that interface, then you and don't use the jail get jail set system calls, then you don't have to worry about it at all.
Yeah, I messed directly with the system calls when I wanted to understand what was going on, because I was just following the jail output from Truss.
Yeah, well, people who like system code are the problem.
Ah,
It's not the problem. I just wrote a prototype. I wanted to understand the sequence. I didn't see it's a stable API you promised to keep.
This statement was a touch tongue-in-cheek, maybe.
So yeah.
are you both satisfied with the broad direction of all of this?
One other
Yes,
point.
please. Yes.
Recent talk about how dangerous it is to pass things with permissions over Unix sockets between jails. That is, these jail descriptors become one of those things. They're like the set UID files. It's like, here's a thing with a permission. Should we stop them from moving between jails via Unix sockets?
No, because it's, it's something you intentionally pass, I would say.
That's true, but then I would say that about set UID
And
file descriptors.
yeah, but you're not. What I would say, no, set UID file descriptors are something different, because here you're sending the file descriptor and you can't derive a new, stronger capability. Basically, the receiver of the file descriptor, the way I understand the jail descriptors you just explained, can't do anything with it the sender couldn't have done. When I'm sending you a set UID executable, you can do something with that executable file descriptor which the sender couldn't have done, namely spawning or execing a process with a specific user ID in the receiving jail. By the way, I looked at the patch for that against current and stable over the weekend, and because it always sets the file descriptor, yes, descriptor, not description flag, uh, and doesn't look at the file descriptor type or file type before it does that, if I understood Mark Johnson's patch is correct. So it should be fairly simple, because the code already sets the flag, even if it only has a meaning right now on directories, to make the exec and fexec, oh, sorry, exec VE and fexec VE system calls. Just ignore set UID and set GID if that's flag is set.
Okay.
So it's at the so I don't know if there's a good way. Uh, I don't know how exec VE with /dev fd path is implemented. If it just translates the argument and then basically goes the fexec VE route, then it would be fine to patch it in one place. Maybe you have to do it in two places. But once you go through the file descriptor and to the file as you have to do whatever you want in the kernel, uh, you just have to check this flag before you do the lookup from file descriptor to file description to file, and carry that flag along. So it's probably a bit annoying to add because you have to add an argument unless there's one where there's a bit field you can put it in to carry it through the function call chain. But it should be as simple as in design as carrying this simple flag to the right place in fexecve. And then saying, no, basically where the kernel does the set UID, set GID checks on the file, it then has to end that with, is this file descriptor from a other root directory, basically. And then that problem is properly fixed. I'm also curious if all the possible mount configurations of the file descriptor file system maintain that invariant that this bit is truly sticky and you can't unset it. Not even if you go through /dev fd mounted with Linux compatibility or no drop behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Because we have 4 different, I haven't tested that yet. Yeah. So our device descriptor, our file descriptor file system has, I think, 4 different ways to mount it. The default one, that's a character device, one where it shows up as a kind of symlink, one where it then shows up as a symlink and behaves like more like open rather than a DOP, so that you do not get a new descriptor, but you get a new description and a descriptor for that description, and then the Linux behavior as a 4th configuration. And yeah, I don't know if all 4 configurations are secure now.
What were those 4? Character device?
So character device, symlink, whatever Linux does, and the no-DOP, which changes what it means to open a file in the file descriptor file system. So with the default option, it behaves like a DOP system call, where you encode the file descriptor number as a path, and then the behavior is effectively as if you did a DOP for that and got a file descriptor, which means it's the same file description, so logs and read position and open permissions and so on are not reevaluated. So you can't take a file descriptor which used to be read only and then open it read write. But with the no-DOP flag, you can do that. But you need the permissions to be allowed to do it at the time you're doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
The annoying thing is that you don't know if you have that file system mounted, and if so, how it's configured. It's really annoying. For
Goodness.
example, the Samba port tells kind of reads the mount options, passes them, and if they're wrong for its expectations, it tries to mount in the rtld script its own and use that or something like that. So yeah, because the default path is not usable. I need my own mount point. It's messy because as an application writer, you can't really depend on how the exact behavior. Like 90% of operations work the same, but depending on what you want to do, it's either acceptable or not.
Alrighty. Well, hopefully Fabricator will come back such that some of this conversation can continue there, but you've both made amazing progress, and thank you very, very, very much for that.
Jamie, did you have any time to take to glance at my Kassiber command?
I don't
Kassiber, was
recall
it?
having
Right?
seen that show up in an email saying I was on that differential thing. Could you
Kassiber is not a review; it's a
it's not a
port.
review. Okay. That's why I was waiting for a review.
Ah,
Oh no, it's I dropped the link to the GitHub repository, and you can just do a package install for its name. And right now it's out
aha.
of tree because it doesn't have to be.
Okay, so let's see.
Yeah, okay, wherever it shows the license here, but because I don't have a README, okay, yeah.
Yep, no read me.
And to this day, GitHub can't render mdoc despite being able to render 1,000 different file formats and syntax highlight every programming language with more than 1,000 active users. Yeah, reviews down. Because I would like to put that into the jexec command so that my port becomes redundant.
So it's a proof of concept of behavior UI
Yes,
based.
yep, it's a proof of concept of what can be done. And what would be interesting is if the directory file descriptor stuff is properly fixed, you can implement it even better by instead of um, kind of asking the host's runtime linker which library paths are needed, I could read the linker hints file and then open the open the library directories and give that to the linker so that it can look up libraries inside the list of open directories, which may give better compatibility with tools. Because depending on how it's implemented, it may work with DL Open. But yeah, can be argued either way if it's better to just look up the libraries on the host and bring exactly the libraries you need to preload, or let the linker look up all the host libraries. Yes, I know that no, it's not LDD which worked, but it's the runtime linker which changed behavior.
Hmm.
Because LDD is implemented as invoking the runtime linker in a certain way. And the runtime linker just changed to report the VDSO.
The linker LD or some
rtld,
RTLD.
the man page short.
RTLD. Aha. That's partly a reminder to myself, partly is that something you care about? Shall I make a bug report? Say, hey, I know I talked
Yes,
about it with John Baldwin like 2 years ago when it first changed behavior. I was like, oh,
the proper way to do it would be to make LDD not showed by default.
uh, is it useful to developers of the world?
Hmm?
Did someone wake up screaming, "Oh my gosh, that's helpful that it mentions the address of
I don't
VDSO"?
think so, because
See my point?
Not an LED, that is.
Okay.
Especially because it breaks the formatting because it's not a full entry.
Exactly. It's like,
Um,
is it actionable? How about that?
uh, yeah. The problem is you can't just exec into rtld with the right flags. If you want to filter its output, you have to act as a kind of grep-v VDSO equivalent. Mm, I don't know if it's better to. I don't even know if the LED command really does an exec into the linker or if it runs it as a child and then
Hmm.
execs. Um, because the funny thing is, even the output formatting is handled by the linker, not by LED. So
Oh,
yeah,
really? Okay.
yeah, it just passes the right arguments as environment variables to the linker. That's also why you only get two format arguments.
I see.
Because,
Okay.
hmm,
Yeah, I'm back. I am trying to go down my list, which includes that. Thank you very much. Gibran, hello. Do you have any jail topics? We've gone deep into jail descriptors.
No, nothing specific this evening. Just here to listen and learn.
No worries. And I hope it's not in any way a sensitive topic. Executable jail.conf. What's the state of that? Is there glorious harmony in the universe surrounding it? My new metric of success.
It's just waiting on Fabricator to be back up, so I could probably approve it with the man page, and that's about it.
Alrighty then. Go, Fabricator, go. I'll do a quick peek. Um, let's see, reviews.freebsd.org, which instantly has a auto completion. Under maintenance, we'll be back. And there's a very large daemon smashing things with a hammer. Okay, well, cool. From before the recording, completely off topic, although events are a key topic, have custom printed slash grown diamonds become so low in cost that one could have grown diamond swag at events? Just curious, just curious. Um, so all things virtualization and containers are fair game for BeehiveCon, and there is scheduled to be a Euro BeehiveCon in Croatia. I really need to finagle a ticket to get there, but do think about uh, topics of discussion or reports to give, or like highly focused presentations, something on the glory of jail descriptors and possibly exec config could be handy, especially with use cases, because that's it seems we've had some genuine movement in all things jail thanks to having these discussions. And thank you all for participating in that. And I hope this is a net positive. Uh, yeah. So there's that. Other thoughts, topics, observations, funny jokes, plans, wish list items, swag ideas, favorite conference, unofficial activities that are well received. Jamie, I don't know if ZFS is in your wheelhouse, but the summit is coming up in October in Portland, Oregon.
No, it
You could
isn't. I
probably
mean, I'm a
carpool
user, but
with
that's it.
you what?
I'm just a
Repeat.
ZFS user like anybody else.
Alrighty. Cool.
yeah,
Go ahead, Jan.
I'm currently tinkering at the boundary between jails and ZFS for my EuroBSD talk.
Ooh, do tell.
I promise to do jail provisioning in under a second.
Ah, yes.
And to really keep that, I kind of can't afford to ever go through all the files of a full FreeBSD userland with documentation and so on. So
Mhm.
even the best copying, unless I'm cheating with preloading everything in the buffer cache or something is too slow. Sure, in theory, you could do a massively multi-threaded copy on a big system and keep the timing, but that's kind of cheating. My goal is to instead declare how a jail is supposed to be created from ZFS clones kept almost always read-only so that they cannot build up a difference you can't rebase. Persistent jail, per jail file systems for your long-term state. And then as a additional option, preloaded tempfs where you can have feral preloaded writable stuff like /etc. With the long-term goal that you never have to etc update again, because you can always just start with whatever origin you specified userland with that userland's default /etc and user local etc, and then very quickly apply a kind of patch against that. So run pw group add user add whatever, and it's going to be so fast that it doesn't hurt during jail startup, so that every time you mount the tempfs, it gets mounted through the mount mfs command so that you can use a skeleton directory. That skeleton directory is copied over with packs, and then you can run a handful of commands to patch it, copy a config file in, whatever. And these kind of modify a known base configuration so that you can basically do a patch instead of a merge. The patch should be a lot more stable than merging the result. At least that's the goal. And it looks like I should be able to deliver on that.
Cool. And longtime listeners will be familiar with this journey. You said merge. You've described various aspects over this in depth for what, 3 years now? And I'm very glad that you are bringing it home into a actionable, usable state with the helps of people like Jamie and Rob and others. So,
Yeah.
everyone, thank you for your collective patience in exploring what these things should look like, because it does take thinking and rethinking, and revising and comparing and arguing. And go ahead, Jan.
Yep. So if I
Hold the demo. I know where you're headed with this. I know
no,
that's okay.
what I wanted to say is, yes,
Yes.
Rob implemented one of like a quarter or so of what I need to do it all in a channel program,
Yeah.
which would be great. But the third state of affairs is that even once the next OpenZFS release brings cloning
Yep.
through to channel programs, I
Hmm.
still can't modify non-user properties like the can mount property and so on, or set file systems to read only or not read only, despite how nice that would be. And I can also not create new file systems from inside the channel program. I can only clone an empty one,
Right.
which would be kind of good enough, but without the ability to modify properties, it can't really be done.
Oh, I see. Right.
So
Well,
what I
the
still have
creation
to
is a
do
top
is
priority.
instead
Okay.
of so creating empty file systems and setting at least most properties. The ones I care most about is the read-only one, and so read-only as the property in ZFS,
Yep.
as well as the can mount property so that they don't get auto-mounted and so on.
Yes, of course.
Maybe enough to be able to specify them during create or clone. But until I can kind of have all my toys available within a ZFS channel program, instead of using a writable channel program, or sync is I think the terminology the man page uses. I'm using a read-only one to figure out what has to change and then have that emit the sequence of commands to run.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
basically,
Yep.
I'm giving it as arguments the commands I want to have executed, and then it checks if that operation has already been accomplished, so that I
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
do the idempotency logic in the channel program. Yeah.
Okay. If only there were a call about those topics. Anything else before we wrap up? Well, great work, everyone. It is encouraging to hear that these long-term ideas are finally hitting like near complete review status. And thank you for working on the manual page. Jamie, thank you for your patience and listening and interest in this. Going full circle, I recall you saying you were a bit on autopilot once upon a time when we met, and you are doing Rod's work. Who would like the honors?
Like and subscribe, everyone who's crazy enough to follow us.
Amen. Thank you so much. I hope to see some of you somewhere at some point. All the best. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.